I asked Zachary, so Zachary, what gives you joy? And I almost fell out of my chair when his answer was that he finds joy in traffic. Yes, everybody, that is what I said. That is what he said, traffic.
Perfectly fitting, I would say, as we go into the holidays. The holidays can have such an energy about them, and we can find ways to transfer what we're thinking in the car into the holidays. Welcome to Simply Enough. This is Zachary and Elizabeth, and thanks for tuning in.
If you're liking our podcast, we'd love it if you'd share with your friends and family.
And then rate and review to raise our visibility and spread the message of enoughness.
We love you, and remember, you are simply enough.
Just as you are.
Period.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Simply Enough. I'm Mr. Zachary Linnert.
And I'm Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
And we are getting into the holiday season, Dr. Ignacio. It's fall in Chicago, and the leaves have fallen, and there's just that crisp pumpkin spice aroma in the air out here, which I know is not totally the same in Hawaii, but we are entering a very special time. And as we go into the holidays, last year we released what I consider to be some really truly beautiful episodes about Thanksgiving and grace and gifts and hope. And those episodes are so personal to both of us. And I know that for those of you that didn't get a chance to listen, we are going to be re-releasing those episodes as we go into the holiday season and through the holiday season in an effort to share them again with you because they are so personal for us. And we feel like there is so many great themes and ideas and takeaways to take you through the holidays. And so please, dear listeners and viewers, look forward to weeks of just beautiful lessons, like I said, on hope and gifts and magic and miracles. And so we will release an episode on January 2nd, 2024, as we
usher in the new year with a new
Yes.
episode. Well, speaking of the holidays, I am a holiday addict. I just love, it's like my favorite time of the year. And yes, to your point, even though we don't really have change of the seasons here in Hawaii, definitely there's just a different spring in my step. And I just love the holidays, and the word that captures the holidays most of all for me is joy. And so in our pre-game locker room talk, as we're trying to plan, what are we going to talk about for this episode? And but I asked Zachary, so Zachary, what gives you joy? And I almost fell out of my chair when his answer was that he finds joy in traffic. Yes, everybody, that is what I said. That is what he said, traffic. And I think that's something very universal that we all, well, not the feeling of joy in traffic, but traffic is very universal to all of us, I think. And I think we all have our own immediate reactions, even to the word or the imagery of traffic. And certainly I have lived in the mecca of traffic, i.e. LA. I lived there for about 4 years, and traffic is not one that I equate with joy. So can I ask Zachary, expound on that, enlighten me with how and where you find joy in traffic?
The reason why I said traffic is because traffic and driving, particularly in Chicago, and I grew up in Orange County, California, so I came from a traffic-laden place, also lived in New York City. Traffic is a big thing in New York City. I mean, traffic is big everywhere. But the act of finding joy in traffic and in driving has been a practice that I have tried to really hone more and more in Chicago, because I find myself so incredibly triggered by the driving styles out here. And I find that I get just this level of rage that I'm like, who is this person? And then the fact that happens, I am now trying to then switch my thinking and be like, okay, but are there things, and this isn't like, pushing myself into kind of a positive place, but are there opportunities to find joy at the same time of being frustrated? And I will say the reason really why I brought that up with you is because there was, I've had a lot of things to do recently. There's been a lot of demands on my time. And then I stopped in this one particular drive where I was going 4.5 miles. Are you ready? And the GPS said it was going to take me an hour and 27 minutes. 4.5 miles
E.
go an hour and 27 minutes. And immediately that, like, are you kidding me? And then I stopped and thought, but that's an hour and 27 minutes that I get just for myself. I get in my car to sing at the top of my lungs, which I love. And so this idea now that like something that can seem like such a drudge and just so incredibly frustrating actually is a gift for me to then have time with myself, which I love, and then time with music, which I love. And so that is what I meant by like joy and finding joy in something that often is not usually associated with joy for myself.
I totally get that. I mean, I think I don't remember what the episode was, but when we were talking about silence
Mm-hmm.
and external noise, and how there was a time in my life when I was separating from my group, and it was
Mm-hmm.
I had it was traumatic for me, and that is actually where I learned to incorporate a little silence
Mm-hmm.
so that I can just be still,
Mm-hmm.
and try to listen to that still small voice within me, that inner GPS, where I believe, in an inaudible way, God is talking to me.
Yeah.
And where I incorporated silence the easiest was actually being in the car,
Mm-hmm.
in traffic. So I turned off the radio, and it was funny how, despite the traffic outside, it ended up becoming a sanctuary of serenity for me, where I actually almost even looked forward to traffic. It's funny how you can, shift
Mm-hmm.
one's vision and perception and change a situation entirely. Another thing I just have to say, that in comment to what you said, and remember now, I'm a feisty Filipina. Okay, so let me talk. I am with you in terms of the road rage. And are you kidding? What did that person do? This person isn't letting me in,
Uh-huh.
or I know this person as I have my blinker on, because we
Yep.
do use
Yep.
our blinkers here in Hawaii,
Yep.
everybody. um, I have my blinker on and I want to change lane, and I know that guy sped up on purpose
Mm-hmm.
and didn't let me in, and all kinds of stuff like that, where I would take things personally.
Mm-hmm.
And a lesson that I have learned from traffic is I don't have to take everything personally,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, very, very truly, it might be truth that, yeah, the guy in the, I don't mean to be sexist, by the way, the
Yeah.
driver
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
next lane, um, did speed up because they didn't want to let me in the lane. And so, though that's true, and yes, they did it to me on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily do it to Elizabeth M. Ignacio,
Mm-hmm.
MD. They're just doing it to the driver in the car, who
Yeah.
happens to be me. And I just realized, trying to make a bigger lesson out of that applies to life too. Not everything is truly personal. It's not really about me. So, getting upset and angry about it, the driver who didn't let me in and sped past is already over me, isn't thinking about me anymore, and, is long past me. But me stewing in my car because I took it so personally, even though that driver didn't even know who I was,
Uh-huh.
I'm taking it personally and I'm stewing. Well, I'm the one drinking my own poison of resentment, right? And that guy's already, off the freeway and headed to his destination. Sorry, again, not guy. I don't mean to be sexist. That's just colloquial phrase. But so that actually helped give me a little bit of space and distance in recognition of when I might find myself in more personal, truly personal, heated
Mm-hmm.
situations, like when, you know, a patient is displeased with me,
Mm-hmm.
or when a little more face to face, if, I don't know, a waiter or waitress or somebody is rude to me. Okay, that's face to face, and therefore, again, that seems personal, but really it's the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes in many ways it's that person, not me, that for whatever reason is behaving the way that they are. So that perspective from traffic has really helped me kind of transcend um, other situations in life in realizing it's not personal, it's not really me. It isn't affecting the other person anyway. Like I love this too, like yelling at and by the way, because I'm guilty of it, I do it far less now. But boy, before I used to be like, if there's a car in front of me waiting to turn right, and I'm like, go, just go. Oh my God, go. Oh my God, you're such a wussy that you can't take a chance, go turn. Like, and I'm yelling at the car. And like, finally, once during this moment of serenity and solitude, as I'm sitting in my car, I realized the person in front can't hear me. What am I doing? Why am I yelling? To change that person. That person's not going to be like, oh, the car behind me is yelling. So now I'm going to turn. No,
Mhm.
I have just worked myself up into a rage, taking things personally, trying to change another person that I have no control over and can't even hear me. And when I do that, that only affected me. Well, that lesson that I took from traffic or from driving, if I can apply it in other situations in life, that is where I can
Yeah.
have a much more peaceful life. Right?
Yes. I'm laughing because I I'm so jealous because this is certainly an area in which I'm growing. And then I also, to totally out him, dad, like you need to listen to this episode because my father is the person who will, and I've learned this too. So I recognize that I do this as well, but I will get so mad, to your point, that I will like drive up next to them and then stare at them. And I'm looking at him like, you're an awful person. And like, then there's that moment exactly where you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? That now I've put myself in a position to risk my own life because I'm now like, I'm cutting off somebody. Now I'm doing it to them. I'm cutting off somebody to speed up, to then get next to them and to like flip them off or do something. Like, what is going on here? Yes. So,
And not only like truly objectively, not only what are you doing or what
yeah.
was I doing, because I
Yeah.
do that too, but for what
For what?
outcome?
Yeah.
It doesn't change a thing, that
Yep.
or might even worsen the outcome, because now as you're looking over and pointing at this
Yep.
guy or woman,
Yep. Yep.
all of a sudden in my mind it clicked once where, what if the person like pulls out a gun
Yep. Yep.
literally? And that's what happens with road rage.
Mm-hmm.
But if other instead just letting it go, just realizing it's not a race, it's not, like, very rarely is it a race. Especially, we may be racing to a destination, but we're not necessarily racing with that car next to
Right.
us. This isn't the
Right.
Indy 500, right? So what is it that we're working ourselves up for,
Yeah.
and to what outcome? Our working ourselves up either will have zero outcome whatsoever, and so what a waste of energy, or God forbid it makes it even worse and ignites the other person's anger that much more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And if I can add to that, I think what I'm enjoying the most is I've never really thought about how transferable many of these moments in the car and in driving and in traffic actually extend to other areas of our life. So I'm just going to say full stop there. Thank you so much for using this as a gateway, or as an on ramp, so to speak, into life lessons outside of the car. So let me just say, like, already this is right up my alley proverbially. But I will also say that I also recognize that I, in non-car life, try to assume the best of people. I really do. And yet I do find myself, particularly, and I think it exists everywhere, but there will be like, okay, so you're getting off the highway to go onto another highway, and the highway that you're getting on maybe has some traffic. And so there's this backup of cars, and you have those individuals who drive all the way down and then cut over at the last second, right? They cut in because they don't want to wait. Okay. That just gets on my nerves. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
just makes me furious because I'm that just part of me that's like, everyone is doing the following the unspoken rules, which is we're in our lane.
Yes.
But then, truth be told, I was traveling for work, driving in a state that I'm not familiar with, and I didn't realize that actually the lane that I was in was ending and I needed to be over. I didn't know. Right.
Mhm.
So now I am like, oh, I am that person. And that perspective already was like, oh, wait a minute. So if that means that, and I'm not saying that there aren't drivers out there that don't do it intentionally, there are, but if I live my life outside of the car, really trying to assume the best of people, can I not apply that in the car and really practice it? Because there's so many opportunities in Chicago to be like, maybe they didn't know, or maybe they, whatever, they're still a good person, right? This is just not a choice or action that then becomes all encompassing about who they are as people, that they're an asshole and they're the worst human being in the world and they deserve a flat tire. And then all these like thoughts come into play that are so contradictory to how I like to interact with people face to face. So here's an opportunity, many opportunities to try and bring that into the car so that it doesn't bleed out of the car.
Yeah. And again, you know, what's the outcome,
Yeah.
what's the end point of being upset with that other person? And by the way, I am not preaching to you,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't like when other people do that as well, but still, in the end of the day, we're fuming in our car at the injustice of what they did.
Yep.
um Yet, number one, is it though? Is it unjust, or is it like just, poor manners and selfish at worst?
Yeah.
And at best, they didn't know.
Yeah.
Or even, they had to because
Yep.
the woman
Yep.
in the back seat is about to give birth.
Yep.
Like, you just don't know. So
Yep.
it's nothing personal. Our getting angry isn't going to affect them, and they're going to say, oops, sorry, I will wait for this whole long line to go. It's like, what, we don't have impact or effect on the outcome. So it's no big deal, and
Yeah.
we're making it a big deal, and we're the only ones that are feeling that it's a big deal. Now, every individual driver that followed the unspoken rule in the
Yeah.
car might all feel the same thing, which is, you know that's unfair. But still, at the end of the day, if we're going to get all riled up, which
Yeah.
absolutely I used to, and sometimes I still do, to be
Mhm.
honest. I'm like, this is definitely, I'm a work in progress. And but that's what goes through my mind when I start feeling myself, feeling that energy of anger and ire. If it's not going to change anything, if it is not going to, create world peace, then, just let it go, because nothing, what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, um, and the other thing I'll also say is, this isn't just driving. This is also passenger or backseat driving.
Mm.
Ugh. Okay.
You're
So
going there.
yeah, I am going there because, yeah, when I'm driving, unless I ask, which I and often I do, because I'm not a great navigator myself anyway. Thank God for GPS. But um, because I'm not even a great, like, I get nervous even looking at the monitor of,
Mm-hmm.
say,
Yep.
Apple Maps or whatever. So I always love and ask, who who's the passenger. Usually it's Gracie or Mikey, to still kind of guide
Yep.
me, and so that they can look at the map and tell me, okay, after 3 stoplights. But anyway, other than when I ask, I really don't like being told, like,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
this way is faster. This way is
Mm-hmm.
faster. I'm like, okay, this is my hometown. I know exactly where
Yep.
I'm going.
Yep.
And so the funny thing is, there's a saying, like, what you don't like in other people is really what you don't like about yourself. So,
Oh.
full disclosure, I am admitting, yeah, because I'm also myself a terrible, irritating backseat passenger driver. Like, go here, go there, try this. This is the way I go. Like, and I'm terrible at that. And I came to a point when I realized, you know, there's if it's the same destination, there's no wrong way per
Mm-hmm.
se, right? Like, if you get there, you get there. Maybe there might be a quote better way, but why do I have to get involved? Why do I have to make a comment? Why do I have to be that irritating nag of being like, go this way, if I'm not asked? Because, number one, how hypocritical, because I don't like it when that's
Mm-hmm.
done to me. And second of all, going a different route is just different, not wrong.
Yes.
6 plus 3 equals 9, but 5 plus 4
Yes.
equals 9 also. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So chill, Ignacio. But then also, when not asked, chill, passenger backseat driver, if I don't ask either. But you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
these are the things that I ponder in traffic, of lessons that we can get from traffic, and how what we learn inside our car can be applied outside in the external world.
I my
Because we drive the car. We drive the
exactly.
car
Yep.
and we drive our situations in life.
Mm-hmm.
We can only control what we control. We cannot control the other drivers.
And I would add to that, I have really I've come to try to remain grateful, and then also find joy in the I need to be completely present. Because, and I'll tell you, in Chicago, there are a lot of cyclists. There are a lot of people that ride their bike to and from their locations, and they don't stop at stop signs. I think
Mm.
they're legally required to, but they don't. It terrifies me that I'm going to hit somebody. And the number of times that has been a very close call, I immediately get responsive. Like I get mad at the cyclist that they don't follow the stop signs. That's not going to change because I get mad at one cyclist. However, it does reinforce that I need to be present. I need to be really focused. I can't, be texting at the same time, which is already dangerous anyway, or even looking. To your point, I struggle with looking at the GPS map because I feel like it's taking my eyes off the road. All of these little reminders remind me I am driving a vehicle that has me in it, and I am my most valuable possession, my most, and so that opportunity to actually try to shut out so many distractors and be really present with oneself has been such a key lesson in a state where in a driving environment that's so new to me, with this new variable of people that could just come in and out to your line of vision. And if you're really not paying attention, truly catastrophic things can happen. And I think about that every time I get in the car, because not only is their life important, but so is mine. And I feel this sense of responsibility. So I would add to what you're saying that I get reminders that I need to be present. And now thinking about what you said at the launch of this, like being present with one's life is certainly transferable beyond the idea of being in a car. And I never really thought about how the two are connected. I will also add, excuse me for this rant, to your point about, there isn't one right way to go, particularly growing up in Southern California, where the belief was this is the most efficient, right? We will get there the quickest. And we somehow prioritize, going the quickest. And for those of you that remember MapQuest, when you would go to AAA or a location and print it out, MapQuest would give you the option of either choosing the shortest distance or the shortest amount of time that you got to choose. And they weren't always the same. So I learned pretty early on, not only that there were two different ways, but then you could choose based on whatever you were prioritizing at that time. Like maybe gas wise, you didn't want to spend as much gas, but whatever. Anyway, um, I was back in California recently. I was going to my niece's volleyball tournament, and I was taking my mom. My mom does not like to take the freeway. It terrifies her. So we chose the shortest distance. Okay. But it added 25 or 30 minutes to being in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to leave earlier. Right now, like that part of me that's like, but this is not efficient. Right. But we got to see some parts of where I grew up that I'd never seen before, ever. And like this beautiful lake that I never knew existed. And my mom was telling me stories about how she used to go to this lake when she first moved from Indiana. And so I got to the location to watch my niece play volleyball and was just flushed with so much joy for seeing a place that I had never seen before that was part of my home, getting these memories from my mom that I never knew existed. And then also just realizing that like I thought there was one way to do something, but there really wasn't. I was just prioritizing one aspect of that trip as if that was the best way. So I just would add to what you said, like a real example of being in that moment and seeing, yes, there's not a right way or wrong way. There's a different way. And that different way was afforded so many things to me that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
So one of the most famous American architects, right, is Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yep.
And apparently he had recounted a story of in his childhood, he would spend a part of the year must have been winter because it's part of the story, but with his uncle. And his uncle had like a house or a ranch or something. And so he would, live and work there. And his uncle, gave him a chore and said, go over to whatever farmhouse and, go from here to here. And so Frank Lloyd Wright did that, and it took him forever to come back. And Frank Lloyd Wright's uncle saw his steps in the snow,
Mm-hmm.
so he knew how Frank Lloyd Wright, the path that he chose. And the uncle was like, "What took you so long? I was worried. And then when I see your footsteps and where you went from, you know, here to that tree and that tree to that brook and then that brook to and it was very meandering." Um, and Frank Lloyd Wright says that it was those times in nature where he really appreciated and grasped the beauty and truly the architecture of nature. And that is why his architecture is most known for how he incorporates his buildings, his houses, his whatever, so that it almost is seamlessly woven and a part of nature. So the irony is to your point, where the uncle is like, you did it wrong. You just go from A to B, and or actually even A to C, and that's the hypotenuse
Right.
of the triangle. Frank Lloyd Wright got his inspiration and his career later on in life based on the meandering, directionless path that he took from his youth. So I hear exactly what you're saying. I also giggle because for me, like, you're about like efficiency, like what's the quickest. For me, actually, the stop and go is really what I just don't like. So even if it ends up being the quickest, the stop and go ness, and even just being, even if it's for a short time, surrounded by traffic, just actually really weighs heavy on my head mentally. So I actually unapologetically, I will purposely, if I know that there is a different path that is longer in distance or even time, yet it is resistance free, I will go that path because there is just an ease to it. I let go of resistance there. Whereas I feel the stop and go ness and the honking and just being, amongst so many cars and so many people, and you can almost sense the energy coming from each of the cars where there's irritation. That just literally like weighs heavy on me. So I will go the longer route, whether it's longer in time or longer in distance, if I can let go of that anxious resistance and instead find ease. And that actually, I take that lesson from traffic. I take that into life in allowing myself grace and space, compassion and permission to myself, that I can take the longer but easier road if I still get to where I want to or need to get, and again, I'm not just meaning traffic, but I use that as a metaphor for life, of find the path of, ease and peace. You're going to get there anyway. Another thing, riffing off of what you said in terms of, having focus and distraction, a little bit akin to a prior episode that we talked about of, what do you ingest, what do you let in, what do you consume, so as to keep the peace and calm within your storm. That's the same thing with driving. And I use that akin to when you are in a storm and bad things happen to good people. So bad things are happening, or certainly things that you don't want, and are sad or hurtful. It's like when you are driving by a traffic accident, or some people will say like a train wreck. Do you want to place your focus on there? Or fine, it might have caught your attention
Mm-hmm.
briefly, but focus on what matters, focus on
Mm-hmm.
what's good, focus on what you're hopeful of seeing, getting, receiving when you're at the destination. So things might catch your attention in life and in driving. Things might catch your attention, but just glance for a second and then realize and refocus where you're headed. And that kind of helps also distill the noise, because my daughter, she is 19, my son is 17. So we're not long far away from when they were first learning to drive. And I know I did this as a teenager too when I was first learning to drive. You know how when you're in a lane and you want to change lane, and so you should not just look in the mirrors, but literally look
Mm-hmm.
over
Mm-hmm.
your shoulder. Well, it certainly happened with both of my kids, and I know I did it. When I was learning to drive, when you turn your head to
Mm-hmm.
look, sometimes your arms go with you, thus
Yep.
the wheel goes with
Yep.
you, and then you veer. That again is just um, another skill that we practice in terms of you can briefly avert your attention, or something else might need your attention briefly, but you still maintain where you are headed.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. And you just quick side story is I when I first started taking driver's ed, I had that tendency of turning the wheel, and Coach Drzanek, who was my driver's ed coach, was like, Leonard, you're doing it again. And that active that active practice of shutting down what felt natural to turn my body is just something I hadn't even remembered until you shared that story. But I am I'm now you've given me even more joy. I mean, thinking about the ways in which I no, truthfully, the ways in which I was trying to reframe what happens when I'm getting in a car, stuck in traffic, etc. I hadn't even thought of how expansive this is, and so you
Right?
know, I mean, truly, literally, truly, the opportunity to be present with oneself and to really focus your attention, and even something as seemingly easy as just taking your eyes away for a second could really pull you away dramatically. And so I'm just appreciating all these little nuggets, and thank you so much. I hadn't ever thought, when we did the moving episode and you were asking me about how I approach moving, and I was saying, this is these are complicated emotions, etc. And you were like, I've never thought about moving through this lens before, and how moving can actually be so relevant in other areas. You are giving us that right now. And I have to get into a car in 30 minutes, and I may have an hour-long commute to get there. And I just have now all these new things to think about. So
Well, this
I
is like an infomercial, because it's like,
seriously
wait, there's more. There's another thing that I just really
do
want
it.
to comment on, in that,
Go.
you know, if there is some goal or some objective or some destination that we have in life, listen to your inner GPS. And what I mean by that is, shit happens, life happens. So sometimes we may veer off path a little bit. So just like on the freeway or the highway, you know how you can be in the lane and then on the side there are those rumble
Mm-hmm.
strips. And, when you get into if you veer a little bit and you go boom, 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 and you hear that you're on the rumble strip, to dramatically and drastically change
Mm-hmm.
can actually be more disastrous.
Yes. Yes.
But if we listen to that still small voice, to the inner GPS, and feel the early moments of the rumble strip, that is just how we can easily just kind of, refocus and get back in our
Mm-hmm.
lane without big swerves or getting off the road. Paying attention to these um these inner longings
Mm-hmm.
or inner guidance of that doesn't really feel right, that choice that I made or that
Mm-hmm.
decision that I
Yeah.
made. Listen to that and if something goes wrong, it doesn't mean, abandon ship, abandon the
Sure.
car. It just means, okay, that was a rumble strip, redirect.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I just have to say, my being in Hawaii, and many of us here in Hawaii, I'm sure you're a part of this too, Zachary. Many of us here in Hawaii comments on this, which is a big thing in Hawaii is when somebody lets you into their lane, you raise your hand or you
Yeah.
shaka to
Yeah.
say thank you. And it's so funny how just a little acknowledgement like that, just a little thank you, makes things so much better.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so funny because, like, I'm guilty of it myself too. Sometimes where it's like, oh, I can tell that this person wants to get in my lane, but I've been in this traffic lane for so long, so I'm going to inch forward, and I'm
I'm not
not
going to
saying
let
I'm
him in.
guilty of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to let him in. And then there is just that again inner GPS, that little still small voice saying, "Oh, come on, Ignacio, what's the big deal? Let the person in."
Yeah.
And just easing off the pedal to just relax resistance a little bit, now letting in the person in front of me because it's not a race. And then the little gesture of raising the hand to say thank you, or the little shaka, makes it all worthwhile. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's amazing, the little gestures in life, how it can really kind of change or shift a situation, shift an energy, shift the perspective. And what we do in the car, again, this is the crux of this episode. These lessons we learn in the car
Mm-hmm.
apply to the greater life outside.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it, but I get tremendous joy being able to let people in, whether they say thank you or not. So that is another area that I hadn't even thought of, to the beginning question of like, why do I find joy in traffic or in driving? Because there's also opportunities to be human and show grace and show and demonstrate kindness towards others. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm that person that gets a little irritated when they don't drop a thank you. But then to our point, I'm going to think about, well, then just thank yourself. Thank yourself for having the moment to say, yes, I want to, like, I can do this for somebody else. If they don't say thank you, which I would love, and actually I'm a big waver. I let people know all the time. And actually, it at times in Chicago, people will wave back. I didn't experience it that as much in Hawaii, but I will see people wave back, and then like, oh my god, we just have this connection. Like we're friends, we're besties, right? Um, but just the opportunity to help somebody out in that way, and then if I don't get a thank you, I still get to say like, but you showed up for yourself. You showed up in an authentic way that you like to show up. Period. So yeah, that was an opportunity to be you. So my God, I'm just
And but also accountability for
yeah.
one's own behavior, that
Mm-hmm.
okay, and I know you do it naturally, but I'm just putting this out there, on the table. Accountability of, well, how do we behave? And there,
Mm-hmm.
that's why, like you say, I do make a point
Mm-hmm.
because I appreciate it when it happens. I therefore, make myself accountable that when I'm, let into a lane, I put up my hand,
Yep.
wave, like you
Yeah.
said, bestie.
Yeah.
So um it's not just like, what do we expect of others, it's what are we going to hold
Yeah.
ourselves accountable to ourselves.
Yes. 1,000%. 1,000%. I feel like we could make this like a two-parter because as I'm thinking about everything you said and the just how expansive this could be, the idea of rerouting your inner GPS, rerouting, and we think that there's one way to go, and then suddenly the road is closed and we have to reroute. I just this the ways in which we can let go of a belief of like the right way, and now we're in a different way, but we're still going to get to our destination and what happened along the way. So my head is now just kind of swirling with other ways in which this has truly transference in many 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 areas, and I feel like we kind of just got on the road. We didn't yet. We're you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I want to take this class. You need to run this class, Elizabeth.
I did. I thought of like writing a book or
Yeah.
like, yeah, doing a course on it. But yeah, these are the things that I ponder because I am in my car in silence.
the last thing I'll
Which is
say,
an ironic thing for us to say
yeah,
and espouse, given that most people, myself included, listen to podcasts also while they're
mm-hmm,
driving. So
yeah,
here's a podcast telling you drive in silence,
yep.
everybody. How ironic.
But
Quite the paradox.
perfectly fitting, I would say, as we go into the holidays. The holidays have can have such an energy about them, and we can find ways to transfer what we're thinking in the car into the holidays, specifically like whatever you think or feel. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, if you don't, or you have just some time, okay, but as we go into this time of year, what ways can we take what we've talked about today and transfer that into our approach into the holidays? And what I mean by that is I know that there are times that I see family time much like I see traffic. Like, oh, I have to deal with that person, or I have to be around this person, I have to make this, or we have to get this out. We have to do all the cleaning. And, like I can then equate this kind of time of the year and the ways in which I celebrate, much like I see traffic, which is it's an inconvenient, it's not efficient, it triggers me, I get upset. And yet there are opportunities to see, wait a minute, how can we rethink this? How can we reframe this? And what opportunities do we have to actually find joy, to find connection, to find silence, to find time with ourselves, time with others, hold ourselves accountable and our behavior accountable, and then demonstrate that with others? They're just, I think I'm going to shut up. I'm kind of
Oh
geeking
my
out
God,
right
I
now.
love it. That was such a beautiful, that was a beautiful way to connect the two. And it is so true. You're absolutely right. I think that was a well said point in these lessons that we're learning from traffic, because some of those same emotions and triggers and expectations
Mm-hmm.
with the holidays can feel like those same feelings that we feel in traffic. Bravo for helping us glean some of these takeaways to apply it to these upcoming holidays, so that, you know what, the holidays will just be a part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. So listeners and viewers, remember that we look forward to sharing all of these great episodes with you about Thanksgiving and the holidays, grace, hope, gifts, magic, etc. We're so excited to share them with you. And then we're also excited to share a brand new episode with you on January 2nd, 2024. So thank you so much for joining us. And remember that you are not just simply enough.
You are more than enough.
Just as you are.
Period.
Period.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Keep driving. Happy holidays, everybody.
Just keep driving. Just keep driving.